Okay, we're continuing Torah Samach. And the last time we said that through the entire process, when the people who were asleep until now, and they were under the category of deaf mute, because they couldn't hear the words of the Chol, because they're basically asleep. And so when they wake up, Valeo Latrufa, when the stories of the tzaddikim, the Mises, Sipurei Mises of the tzaddik wake them up, so Zlahatir Peh, it unties the mouth of those who were deaf mute until now. They start speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with Haisa Diburim, with Hat Diburim, and that koyach, the dibur that was by those, it was constricted until now, like in high pressure, like in a balloon. And suddenly started talking, so the burim comes out, with great force. And we said that force, it's a spiritual force. It's a universal spiritual force, and this is given to the batchanei ador, the truster, the people who are the trusting people, the people who have bitochen in a generation. Mm-hmm. And from them, batchanei ador they are the progenitors. They are the one who are in charge of the progeniting nature of the world. In other words, there will be more children born. There'll be more shefa or bounty to the world, and so forth and so on. So, batchanei ador, this is p'chinas, they are klei ha'ilada. They are the tools of progenation. So, and that's why this is batchanei ador. That's why kloyos, the Rebbe said, it's called batuchos. We said in Kapitel Nun Aleph, it says Betilim. It says, "And emet chafatzta batuchos." You desired truth in that place is called batuchos, which is the kidneys. Uvasosum chochmato dieni, and that which is opaque and unfathomable, you will let me know chochma. Rashi says, batuchos, this elu hakloyos, this is the kidneys. Shen chalokas, that are smooth. You should know, that in Oriental medicine, all the glands, all the outlook, the way that they see all the different organs in a person is very different than they see in Western medicine. And Oriental medicine, the thing is that they said there's a life force that goes through, meridians, channels. It's called chi. The Indian of the kloyos is not just what we know in Western medicine. That it's just a place that takes out the toxins from the blood, but it is also the place that enables people to progeny altogether. Ken nikar kloyos batuchos, ki hakloyos, says Rabbeinu, klei ha'ilada. They are the tools of progenation, of giving birth. So the bitochen is the klei ha'ilada. It's a principle bichlal that the person should know. That why does bitochen is the klei ha'ilada? Why is bitochen is the thing that makes birth of new reality possible. It's a principle which is found in many different places as well. You know that this is a nechol alecha yisaberu. The eyes of everyone, will looking up at you. In other words, expecting you. And you are giving them, the sustenance at its right time. So the Rebbe says in the Likutey Moharan, says that the bitochen is making a kli, is making a tool, a vessel, a place for the shefa. The shefa comes all the time. The bounty flows to the world all the time. When a person has bitochen, it creates a vessel or receptacle to receive the shefa. And you can see, it is this Indian of when a person goes into practically anything in his life, but they're cloud, you know what I'm saying? If he's unsure and he's timid and he doesn't know, I'm going to get it, I'm not going to get it, it's not going to work, whatever it is, the result is going to be that he's not going to get it. It's not going to work. Because the person doesn't, it's like a person doesn't have a keli to contain whatever it is that he supposedly wants. It's a fascinating discussion and illumination about the role of rotzin and bitochen in bringing to a person his sustenance and his kli and sustenance and his the new shefa and the bounty that comes to him. Because when a person is certain that nothing is going to come to him, so things don't come. Basically, it's like, something in psychology, it's a very known Indian that your outlook basically creates your reality. If you're looking to fail, subconsciously you will fail. You're making sure that you will fail. And if you succeed, you'll sabotage it to make sure that you fail. And this all Indian of so that's what Dafka, the Indian of progenation means, is creating a new situation. Later, so Dafka is called bitochen, because Dafka's in of bitochen creates the receptacle to receive the shefa from Kodesh Baruch Hu. Kodesh Baruch Hu flows, brings down the shefa and the bounty and the plenty all the time. But people don't have kelim for that, so it doesn't stay by them. As we will see.
Why is that? Hashem, if he wants to give the person, why would he? Give it.
So no, when a Kodesh Baruch Hu wants to give a person, what he does, he creates a rotlin by the person. You know what they say? Well, where there's a will, there's a way. When you want something, you'll find a way to make it happen. Yeah. It's a very profound bechina. Kodesh Baruch Hu created the world from nothing to something. Okay? So comes the question, Kodesh Baruch Hu is everything, right? Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't lack anything, right? Yeah. So what was created from nothing? Kodesh Baruch Hu has everything. Where's the nothing? Kodesh Baruch Hu has everything.
The poor guy needs this, but his own self doubts are going to cause him not to get it. He needs it. Hashem wants to give it.
Let me get to that. It's so you just understand how the process works. Okay, so they say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created something from nothing. The only thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created from nothing was the will to receive. The one thing HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not have is the will to receive from anybody, because there isn't anybody. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't lack anything. There isn't anybody to give him. So this had to be created. Once the will the will was to receive was created. Mimela, the will itself already created the wherewithal. There's a will, there's a way. It created the wherewithal for that will to be fulfilled. Mimela, that's also there's a story of why they say so that a person is born. He has Yetzer Hara until age 13. This is when he gets Yetzer Tov. You want to tell me the Yetzer Hara needs, a head start? It's like, I mean, how unfair is that? It's like, what does he need a head start for?
The other question is, how does he not have Yetzer Tov? Because he does good stuff too.
But this is what they say. The guy does good stuff. He wants whatever it is. That the question is that's what the Gemara says, that the person has Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov he gets in age 13. Okay, so and then they say also that say Olam, so when Bezat Hashem they will get up, they'll resurrect. It says Bemuman Oindim, they will rise with whatever the infirmities that they had before, and then they get healed. Then they become healed. Because why? If they get up, let them just get up perfect. What they need to go through this whole process for. But there's a side goal. Beruchnius, in the spiritual realm, on the principle level, things are close when principally they are the same. In other words, if somebody is a communist and somebody is a capitalist, okay, they can sit right one next to each other, but there's conceptually, they're as far from each other as possible. But if the two communists or two capitalists, one at the end of the world, one at the other end of the world, physically they may be very far, but conceptually, spiritually, they're very, very close. Okay, so it's in Ruchnis, in Kabbalah, it's called, that formatting, capitalist format, whatever that level of it's called tsura. It's called a formatting, a form. So when the form are similar, then things are considered to be close. When the form, the tsura is different, this is when things are considered to be far. Okay, Kodesh Baruch Hu, the tsura, quote unquote, of Kodesh Baruch Hu, ultimate tsura, Kodesh Baruch Hu is a giver. That's what he is. He gives. He's all about giving. A person is a taker. The thing that typifies his tsura is the fact that he's a taker, per definition, which means that the person and Kodesh Baruch Hu are totally far from one another. It's completely diametrically opposed. So how can a person come closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu? So the answer is as follows. A person is born with Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is me, give, it's mine, I want it, I can first, I saw it first. Okay? And why did you give him and he didn't give it to me? And you always give it to him, never give it to me. And the thing is, why? Because as a person grows up, the will to receive becomes bigger and bigger. First of all, he wants a candy. Then he grows up, he wants a bicycle. Or he wants a Nintendo, whatever it is that he wants, okay? And then he grows up and he wants, the will to receive, what? Well, yeah, for a mitzvah, I don't think he'll take a Ferrari, but nevertheless, maybe if you're, from Saudi, then you get a Ferrari before age 13. But other than that, I don't know.
Or he wants a wife that thinks will be better than the wife parents.
Yeah, well, but this is we're talking about later. I would say until age 13, the process is that the person is actually developing and growing the will to receive. In other words, quote unquote, he's getting further and further and further from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as it were, tzura-wise, principally. Then he becomes a mitzvah. He becomes a mitzvah, gets a Yetzer Tov. He still wants things for himself. But now, he has a Yetzer Tov, so he wants to learn Torah, still for himself. If he's normal, he's working, he's growing up in a functional home, whatever it is, assuming everything is fine, so he wants to learn Torah, but for himself, so the Rebbe will say the TVA, and then if he finish Masechta, and then, he wants to daven, everything is for me. It keeps him the will to receive. Now it's in mitzvahs, in Torah and mitzvahs, but nevertheless, it's all about him. The will to receive still grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. Until a person is oimed on das shleimo, and that's the shleimus ha'odom, that he takes that will to receive and he flips it over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He gives it as a gift to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so the HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have who to give to. In other words, I, for myself, I don't want anything. The only thing that I want is so that you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, will have who to give. You take all that developed, sophisticated will to receive that you made bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you give the whole thing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give him, a receptacle, so the HaKadosh Baruch Hu will fulfill his will to give. So what it does is it makes you a giver. You give over, your will to get, to receive, and you give it over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's Shleimus HaOdom. With this, they become one. Chofetz Chaim says that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants a person to be poor, so he makes him lazy. And this is an Indian that we spoke about before. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give a person, he gives him the ratzon to have it, so that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives it to him, it will stay by him. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives something to somebody, and that somebody doesn't have the ratzon to have it, it will not stay by him. It's like a person who grew all his life, as a poor person. It's not poor, whatever it is. Suddenly he wins the lottery. Almost everybody who wins the lottery becomes a Baal Choiv, becomes a debtor within a year. What did you do? I don't know, $500 million. What did you do with it? Well, my relatives everybody came out of the hole. People discovered he has money. Everybody, like a magnet, everybody came and took all the money from him. Fine. But the point is that how come rich people, don't have that? How come people don't take all the money out of them? Because they have the receptacle that enables them to hold the money, to hold the wealth. So you can't just take it out of them because they want to keep it. But if a person doesn't have the will to keep it, it won't stay by him. And the same thing is the same thing by anything else in life. Ad kedei kach, that you can say that a person's life is a reflection of the way he wants his life to be. Not the way he would want his life to be in his fantasy, but the way he really wants his life to be. That's the way his life is. Why? Because he's creating a receptacle that receives reality and shapes it according to what he wants. If he wants to fail, we all know a person, that goes from job to job, and wherever it is that he goes, his boss, somehow, is dishonest with him. And you're wondering how does one person have this imglik, this it's a guy that, if he wouldn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have luck at all. It's like, how did he get all these dishonest bosses, to keep on, following up, all the time with him? And no, the answer is that person has a subliminal rotzon to be taken advantage of. Well, because that's the way he grew up, that's the way his family was, whatever the Indian is. If it's nature or nurture, it doesn't really matter. But the point is that this is what his rotzon is. So whenever it is he's looking to work for people, when he's looking for a job, whatever it is, without even realizing it, he manipulates it in such a way that it'll end up that he will be taken advantage of. So, the way that you're looking, that's the way that things will come to you. If a person looks at Kodesh Baruch Hu with bitochen, he'll get it. Because the shefa comes mishamayim all the time. If you have the keli, you'll get it. I mean, of course, naturally, the tikkun of the person is that he gets everything. Now his tikkun is that mishamayim, Kodesh Baruch Hu decided the best thing for him is not to have it. It doesn't matter what he wants. Kodesh Baruch Hu will take it away from him, or he'll lose the ratzon to have it. Whatever it is will happen. It will not stay by him. But the answer, the Indian of we spoke about it once before. The Indian of ishtadlus and the Indian of hashgacha. If you have chula, you have bitochen, right? You trust that Kadosh Baruch Hu is the one who does everything. So why do you have to work? Because Baruch does everything. Why do you have to take medicine? Why do you have to do anything? The answer is that this world was created in order for us to have choice. And the choice is that we need to do a certain amount of ishtadlus to the degree that we'll have an nisayon. Did the Kodesh Baruch Hu give it to me? Or is I'm a self-made man. I'm the one, yeah, of course, Kodesh Baruch Hu to give it. Come on, but between you and me, I was the one who's taking care of number one. All right, it's like no. I say all the right things. Yeah, Kodesh Baruch Hu, everything. But you have to do enough ishtadlus commensurate to how much bitochen you have. If a person has so much bitochen, he doesn't have to do anything. Mamash, up to the point that because it doesn't make any difference.
Why if you're working with someone else?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Man, you're working as the cashier in the supermarket. Don't do anything.
No. The tzaddikim who has bitochen at such a level, they don't need to do any ishtadlus at all. The rest of us must do ishtadlus because we have to have the choice to say or no, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it. And if you won't do the ishtadlus, you won't get it. A person has, a certain amount that will be given to him on Rosh Hashanah. Is determined. If you won't do the ishtadlus, you won't get it. Because the ishtadlus is tzorech gavoah. The mass amount of a person is a tzorech gavoah. It's a chelik ma'avodas Hashem. You have an insight to say, no, I'm the one who made it. I'm the one who did it. It's up to me. I'm talented. I'm very good at it. Whatever it is. You have to do ishtadlus up to that point that it'll be like equal in your mind. Me or Kodesh Baruch Hu? Then it's enough ishtadlus. Which means that if a person knows that he cannot do, there's a certain level, you get to a certain point that no matter what you do, you can't do it. Okay, somebody comes to you and says, okay, I want you to pay $100 million now. There's no way I can do that. So what do? You have to make ishtadlus? The answer is no. If you know that whatever is demanded of you is beyond your ishtadlus, al pi sechel, you have to do anything. The Chazon Ish, I think is Gersa B'tochen. I think he writes that. He said that what's the gather of B'tochen? He said the gather of B'tochen is something which is sensible. A sensible ishtadlus. He says if a person clutches at straws, he's drowning, clutches, that's not ishtadlus. That's lack of bitochen. Why? Because a straw cannot sensibly save a person from drowning. What is demanded? The ishtadlus that demanded from you is sensible ishtadlus. That's it. So that's why, the bitochen is really batuchos, and the batuchos are the one who make birthing of these new situations, of new people, of new wealth, or whatever is possible, because they have the vessel, the bitochen. That is the receptacle that are able to, to congeal the amorphic shefa influx of bounty of any sort into worldly existence. The jelfa, congeal to actual concretize, as it were, to become real and concrete. This depends on, but okay, a klois is called kleolodo. This is when the trusters of the generation, those are the biggest bitochen in the generation, they receive it, and we said that they receive it, each one, that koich they receive according each one commensurately with the amount of bitochen that he has. This is what we learned until now. And now the Rebbe says as follows: and you have to make sure you have to say that you see that the klei dibur will be close to the klei lodo. Because the koyach dibur will be close to the trusters of the generation, so they can receive this dibur. In other words, then the Navi says to the Rishonim, you're very close to their mouth, but very far from their kidneys. When Navi comes to kidneys, what's it got to do with this? Now it's with their mouths, the Rishonim show they're close to Kodesh Baruch Hu, they fear Kodesh Baruch Hu, but in the thoughts of their kidneys, it's called closer klayos yotzos, as they say. The advice is in the kidney, as they say. They don't really believe in the Kodesh Baruch Hu. It means that their mouth is very far from their kidneys, from their trust in the Kodesh Baruch Hu. In other words, a person has to see that the burim, the words that come out of his mouth, will come out the emes. As much emes as you're capable of, obviously. Then va'ada diburim, they're coming out of the kloyes. They're coming out of the person's eitz, as it were, because the diburim that comes out from, as it were, from the kloyes, which is klei loda. Afterwards, it comes out of his kidneys. In other words, it comes out of your innermost reality. Afterwards, come to actually the B'chone Adon, which is Klei Lodo. But when the Diburim does not come from Kloyos, it doesn't come from a person's innermost emes, they won't get to B'chone Adon. They won't get to the trusters of the generation. There is Likutey Moharan and Mea Nachal and Biur Likutim. They explain the closeness of the Klei Dibur to Klei Logo in a different manner. They explain to what we learned before that the person needs to guard himself from dishonest students. Because when a person teaches to Talmidim, which are corrupt, which are not honest, the Klei Dibur is getting far away from Klei Lodo. Because the Talmidim She'enim Agunim, the dishonest students, cannot receive his Diburim. a good way to understand it is because we said before that anybody who teaches Torah to somebody else, kilu yolodo, as if he gave birth to him. So the Talmidim are your progeny. So when you speak a dibur, you have to speak a dibur that will get into their ears and will create a new reality by them. We'll get them to Torah. We'll get them to mitzvahs. Lima v'lamad lishma v'lasas l'kayim. When you do that, it means you give birth to another person. So the Klei Dibur, the words that you said, the lima that you melamed, was very close to Klei Loda, which is the ears of the Talmidim. They heard it, and they developed, and they grew. But when a person is speaking to people who are far, they have absolutely no intention whatsoever, to grow spiritually from that. Okay, that's like, that sounds interesting. It's like, wow, that's really deep, man. That's really deep. And that's the whole shtick for them. So Klei Dibur is very far from Klei Loda because you're not giving birth to that person. You're not giving birth to a new generation of Yiddishkeit. Because you have to ultimately understand that when we learn together, and the kavana in our learning is to come close to Kodesh Baruch Hu. What happens is that whatever comes out of the mouths of whoever it is that's learning, that's teaching it, and I'm getting it, okay? He means in his mind it is one thing. I mean, there's a lot of things in his mind that he understands about what he's talking about that maybe he cannot even put it into words. Maybe I don't have the kelim to understand, how sophisticated he understands it in his mind, okay? And when I hear the diburim, I hear them according to my receptacles, according to my kelim. I understand it, I misunderstand it, I may interpret it, I misinterpret it, whatever it is. The tachlis is that I'm coming out of the shir with something totally different. In fact, if we are like 10 people who are sitting and hearing Dvar Torah from one person, each and every one of us takes something else from it. And what happened is that we are taking that which the way we understood it, the way that it was formatted in our mind, and we create a whole mahalach, a whole Yiddishkeit from that. Totally different from the way that the teacher had it in his own mind. But if the Talmud is enohoged, if the Talmud is corrupt, means that the Diburim don't get in. That means that the Diburim are far from Klei Lodo. The Diburim are far from the organs of progeny. This is what we can call it the derech mashal. That's why there's one. It's almost like there's one reality to the Klei Dibur and the Klei Lodo. Because those, I think it's the Zohar that says it, those are filled with nerves and sinews and like those. Because it is through the Koach HaDibur, Nase Aylo the Kanal. It's a very, very profound bechina. As we will learn later on, that in Olam Esel the something is called Yichudim. There's unification. Yichud means that one sephira is mekabel from a sephira that is above it. And the one is above is receiving from the one that's below it. They become one. So there is what you call an insemination that, how do you call it? it's a cross fertilization insemination. It's like it was mekabel demiden. The alien is mekabel from the tachon, tachon mekabel from the alien. And the principle is, it's called yichud, it's called zivugim. So the yichud is called, first of all, the sandwich is called yichud anishiki. The first coming together is the yichud anishiki, which is called the inaf neshiko. This is the first contact. And later on, it becomes yichud agufos. It becomes the yichud of the bodies, as it were, between the sphere and the sphere tachtoino. First of all, it comes the hatir peh, the dibur comes out, and afterwards it becomes the yichud agufni. This is where the children come out. So the Ma'aseh is also very, very, very deep and profound in Yonim about this. We won't get into it, but it's legabe the soid of Yibum. You know, that the dafka, you know, why does the wife of a person that did not have any children have to marry his brother? And if he doesn't want to be miyam her, he has to go through the process of chalitza, and she has to spit before him. He says that's why this is and sometimes in the spit that she spits, you can see the image of the niftar. It's because the husband initially, the first time that when they got married, he says Shada Berucha, he's putting his imprint, his spirit into her, and that never leaves unless it comes out in a child. Or else it has to come out in chalitza, in the rock, in the spit. Because first of all comes zivug anishikin. And then afterwards comes a very, very, very deep and profound Sedis Torah that are in this inyan. So there it says it's Havaya Achas, it's a similar existence to both of them. Because this inyan of zivug takes place in both in Klei HaDibur and in Klei HaLodo. Kiem Bchina Achas. Because it is the koyach of the dibur that ultimately Naso Lodo. B'chinos, as we said before, V'aleu L'Trufo, when the speech, the stories of the Chachamim is L'Trufo is Lahatir Peh, to untie a mouth. Lahatir Peh Ilmim, Lahatir Peh Akoritz. So when we learned it first, it seems like, okay, there are two opinions. One of them says, the leaves of the trees are going to grow up next to that nachal that comes out of Kodesh Kodeshim that the Navi Shayahu speaks about. One opinion says, something, people that were mute, deaf and mute, will be able to speak. And it says, no. It means that the women that weren't able, to become expecting, the barren women will be able to bear children. The Rebbe tells us it's one thing. That's two stages of one thing. First of all, has to occur the lahati pre ilmim. The koyach hadibur has to be freed up. And that, in turn, brings about lahati pre akoris. Because the pe ilmim, the mouth of the mute, is klei hadibur. That's the vessels, the kalim of the dibur, of the speech. Pe'akoros is klei loda. This is obviously the vessels of giving birth. Now, Rabbeinu says, "V'zeh pchinas zivug anishikin, v'zivug agufni." This represents the coming together, the yichudim of the nishikin, of the mouth to mouth. Zivug agufni, it is the zivug of the gufni. The zivug anishikin, the yichud of the nishikin, that bechina of the higher bechina, low bechina, received from one another, first of all occurs in the level of dibur, which is neshikin, and then it goes down, it becomes more concrete, and actually children are born from that. As it's said, it's Chaim, because everything that happens, beruchnius, all the realities, the way they are beruchnius afterwards, they manifest themselves in physical reality. The reason why people procreate in a certain way is because beruchnis, that's the way it happens. That's the way, but the sphere of Yonis, that's the way. First of all, it's Ziva and Nishik, and then it's Ziva Gufni. The same thing happens afterwards also begashmis. כי על ידי כוח הדיבור בחינת הפעילמים, שהוא בחינת זיווג הנשיקין, that's the yichud of the mouth. There's an asas zivug agufni, then asas the physical zivug b'chinat lahati u'pnei hakoros, to untie the mouth of a koros. And the Rebbe says the one of the things that is very, very important, it all ties together. The Gabe, the Rebbe says that the thing that the Yira does, he was saying that, when the mouth is open and the burim comes out, kind of gets strength. When the chorus give birth, when barren women give birth, is a tremendous galus of Yira. And what does it say? What is this galus of Yira? Is the thing that keeps a person from going after Hevel Hayofi, that being, tempted by the empty beauty of women. It's a shtus, it's a Hevel. What are you going to get out of it? But instead of saying, if a person does not guard himself from Hevel Hayofi, then he becomes Sheker Achen. Then he starts, adapting all kinds of, fake mannerisms in order to show himself to be like, look at me now. Kind of the Maisa, what we need to learn from here is that there is another kesher. The Rebbe says that when a person has machshavas, he has yihurim. And also says most of them is yihurim has to do, with fantasies, which are, of new fashions. Like, the Rebbe says, he said, well, there's one in Sichas Haran, there's one Sicha where the Rebbe was with the Gnossen, and the only thing the Rebbe told him is that right now I found out the immense damage which occurs when a person entertains, these kind of fantasies, of licentious fantasies. But the Rebbe says that if a person sees that Hirurim come to him, goes around, and suddenly, boom, in his thoughts, he imagines things, maybe things that happened, maybe things that didn't happen, maybe things that, let's do a situation that happened and didn't happen, and make it do differently. Each one according to the way, to his own fantasies, legabe this inyan of Hevel Hayofi. So the Rebbe says that a person shouldn't get rattled by that. But just a second, before you said, this is immense damage that this does. The Rebbe says, no, this is Mishamayim. They send it to you in order for you to fight it. They said that they send machshavas, it says good thoughts and bad thoughts. This is the same way, that there's sports games, there's your team, there are other teams. What?
Thoughts will come, but don't just surrender to them. Fight them.
Okay, so the thing is that the Klei Dibur has to be close to Klei Loda in this Indian as well, because the main nisayon of a person is in that area, and it doesn't matter how old you are. That's a frightening thing about it. And that person can be 90 years old, going, and somebody passes. You're 90 years old. What are you going to? Because it doesn't matter how old a person is. These machshavas are coming in, they're coming out. It's like Shem Yirachem. Imagine people were able to see what it is I'm thinking. Shem Yirachem. I wouldn't dare come into the shul. So what do? And not only this, it's like a person finds himself that it doesn't just come to my mind. I begin, it's a little swoosh. I'm all the way in. I didn't mean that. I'm into fantasize in such a way that it doesn't come to a, and I'm lost, totally lost. And only this is, and then you go through it, and and the whole thing becomes a whole story. They're going to stop. I can't stop. What are you talking about? I can't stop. Klei Dibur. Not only I can't stop, I don't even want to stop. But do me a favor. Help me to stop. Just stop. And the soul says, no, you want to think me? Come on, man. I'm your best friend. You're going to feel so good. It'll be so, it's going to be so geschmack. Help me to stop. Nosa says it doesn't matter if you've been into it for an hour. You caught it after an hour, stop it then. Yeah, but now it doesn't matter. You're not here in the competition that it's a big kunst, it's a trick, or it isn't a trick. That you want the game ugly or you want the game beautiful. It doesn't matter. It means you win the game. Whenever you catch it, you stop. And if you see you can't stop, ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Open up your mouth and ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because this dibur that you ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, help me stop. I'm not asking for a lot. Just stop thinking that. This is a dibur that comes out of the kloyos. This is a dibur that comes out of. This is the emes dikadibur. It comes out from Krei Lodo because you don't want that Inyan. That's the way to work on this. And it says, don't worry, these thoughts are coming to you in Oro Fatikun. Because whenever there's a person has, licentious thoughts and thoughts of Tuma, and a person connects himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and asks HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help me stop, you are taking the Kedusha that is steeped in there, and you elevate it all the way to the Kedusha. As we learn in Torah Beis, Chalek Beis, remember, who says that there's a light, from the light that the primordial light that got broken in the Shvir Sakelim, and he said the way that you take it out is by getting over the Taivas. And then there's a secondary light that came into the Oil Matikun, the Kalim. This is already in Torah and Tefillah. It says that, and you actually fish out, the shards of the Nitzosos HaKadoshim from the primordial light, which is the much bigger light, by withstanding the Nisayon. But how can you withstand Nisayon unless you have a Nisayon? How can you pass a test unless you actually have a test? So, schreck sich nicht. Don't get rattled that these thoughts come. And don't get rattled, even you find that the quicker you get out of it, the easier it is to get out, and the less rattled you're going to be. And the lessons of God. So this is the Indian in that we can learn the Inyanenu. That's a certain pshat that the Klei Dibur will be close to Klei Lodo. When a common Indian of being drawn after Hevel HaYofi, the answer is in the Dibur. Okay? Baruch Hashem, we have Shabbos Shira coming. So, because Baruch Hu should help us with Hashem, that we will get out of Mitzrayim, each one from his own private Mitzrayim that he needs. And we Bezach Bezat Hashem to Gula Shleima. And Bezat Hashem being in Besamigdash, soon nowadays. V'yes Mashiach Tzidkenu Bezat Hashem. Kol Tov, Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.